Yes, it's okay.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing, good afternoon and congratulations to my colleague, Manuela Sorbo. Congratulations, Manuela, for the presentation. It's very interesting, as we already said, to be so visual and to connect with all these agents of your university. A lot of things, again, to be connected, to find synergies, and I hope we are going to have time in this 2 years project. So from University of Seville and the Cátedra, the UNESCO Chair CREhAR team, we have entitled our contribution, Learning Methods on Heritage for Architects, Creative Design Process for a Sustainable Built Environment. And we are going to be presenting this work with Professor José Peral, Marta García Casasola, María Carrascal Pérez, Julia Rey Pérez, and Professor Enrique Laribe. Continuing with what we said this morning, and as a brief reference to our context in Andalusia, cultural heritage is the central theme. And listening to our partners of UAF, the synergies are clear regarding the key role of cultural heritage in the Mediterranean latitudes of heritage. So among the 4 pillars of sustainability, environmental, social, and cultural, this last one, culture, is the main sustainable vector. As I said this morning, it is the gate, the node from which we entail the other 3. So since the foundation of the Andalusian government, cultural heritage has become a local resource since the 80s, a common practice to reduce architectural heritage for public institutions, but it is not only instrumental. Cultural heritage is within the actual definition of the image and character of Andalusia, as I said before also. The decentralized condition of Spanish geopolitics derived also in the transference of the power of heritage legislation. And we have to say that Andalusian heritage law constitutes a Spanish reference within the last trends of international framework. So we can say that we are connected, linked to the international context of culture and heritage, constituting the driving force of sustainable urban development. And we're situating that at the heart of the urban renewal and innovation. We have structured this contribution in 4 parts. The first one, we are going to offer a conceptualization framework. Then we are going to focus on architectural higher education at Seville University, tracing the presence of heritage and sustainability. In a 3rd part, we are going to show specific creative practices in the context of methodological innovation. And finally, we are going to show through different interviews that we have transferred to our presentation, the challenges we face seen from the perspective of the different agents, not only the academia, but the institutions and the practitioners. So as you can see, we have developed this diagrammation, and the presentation is intertwined and connected with the different diagrams that you are going to be seeing on your left-hand side of the slide. So as for the conceptualization framework, we offer our approach to sustainability through heritage, and also a general framework of our teaching and learning methods. So how do we position ourselves in the ever-changing and multifaceted definition of cultural heritage and sustainability? Within the updated concept of heritage studies, as we said, constantly updating, and it is, as it is represented in this, so to speak, landscape barcode, we point out, we want to point out the main vectors we work with. On the one hand, the complex, multi-scalar condition of heritage, from building to city to landscape. Secondly, complexity also regards to what is considered heritage, from monument to emergent heritage of our built environment, with a special focus on the more modest, invisible, and risk of disappearance, such as the industrial heritage, cultural landscapes, or social housing. Far from an elitist approach or being obsessed to claim the more dogmatic examples, cultural diversity constitutes the main heritage value, promoting each and every heritage. We also insist on the local value, but in an international context, as a powerful tool for respect and peace among the countries. Intangible heritage is also critical for an integral heritage assessment. Buildings are transmitters of life. This is the first sentence of Sibyl Moholy-Nagy of her book on vernacular architecture within the 50s. This connects directly with the human values associated with a place, what a place is for a community, and takes us to the real need for social participation. All this complexity leads us to the interdisciplinarity, of course, a word that is always there again and again, but we architects feel a certain resistance that we have to overcome. Quoting the architect Antonio Jiménez Torresillas, heritage and our tradition is avant-garde. As architects, we project this heritage in the future. He also said, innovation and creativity is critical in this process that goes from what we receive to what we generously offer to future generations. And how we can train educators to share this complex and fluid concept of heritage. Firstly, cultural heritage and sustainability are not only topics of specialization. Our friends in Venice already said so. Is it indeed necessary to offer, of course, pornographic courses and postgraduate expert programs? However, it is even more relevant to deal with them as a transversal core which runs all the way through the education of the architect. To integrate this transversality within all the undergraduate higher education of the architect. No matter what the contents are, the areas of knowledge, the perspective should be sustainability and heritage. How we train in creativity? We have to train critical and active individuals. The student established in European higher education has to be in the center. This means shifting from teaching to learning methods. Training creativity is essential in a field of constant change. The key is to train in being ready to create new methods. We have already talked about that in the previous presentation. Ways of identifying new values, intervening singular and unique architectures. The tools, the methods, the theory, and the regulation are just not enough. On the other hand, creativity is not opposed to rational knowledge, scientific methods, but complementary to it. So we have to work on this connection, on this integration. And finally, it is key to understand design, of course, as an integral process, to know, to research, to assess, to value, to intervene. Creative methods training is not only to intervene, but it has to be inserted in the processes of knowledge and assessment too. Well, in this second part, we focus already on architectural higher education at Seville University. At the School of Architecture, there is one grade on architecture, and there are several masters, but here we are emphasizing the two which are focused on sustainability and heritage. Professor Maria Carrascal will introduce the Master in Sustainable Architecture and Cities, and afterwards I will introduce the Master in Architectural and Historical Heritage.
Hello, everyone. It is a pleasure to join you this afternoon. I will introduce, as Professor Loren said very briefly, the Master in Sustainable Architecture and Cities. This master was created in 2006, and it is intended for professionals, administration technicians, and future researchers. It involves 8 faculties and more than 20 departments, which ensures a wide range of perspectives in this field. This program is aimed at providing advanced and transdisciplinary training in sustainability for urban and architectural regeneration. Indeed, it particularly addresses cultural heritage as the matrix from which to conform a sustainable project. The march is structured in 4 models, as you can see in the table provided. 2 first models are theoretical and 2 last ones practical. The first model, City and Architecture in the Ecological Era, is more contextual. It addresses the fundamentals of sustainability for the regeneration of the habitat, and it presents the policies and creative strategies for an integrated process. Model 2, however, has a technological approach and focuses on current sustainable architectural solutions. Due to the extended historic urban context and landscapes that surround us and that Professor Loren already introduced, built heritage and the intangible heritage are the starting points of such discussions. Model 3 addresses practical studios for regeneration and certain research activities. And Model 4 is aimed at providing research tools and methodologies to nurture the last stage of the master thesis. There are 4 goals, main goals in this master: to develop new ways of working with a strong and also long-term sustainability, prioritizing environmental justice, to understand social, economic, and cultural complexity of both rural and urban territories, and to pursue a comprehensive analysis and strategic regeneration of cultural heritage as the base of a sustainable action. And the last one, to interest in environmental management to face global change with updated criteria and techniques. This master uses a combination of methods, lectures, creative reviews, public presentations, special seminars and workshops, but also fieldworks and site-based studios. The master thesis has 3 calls and a number of public sessions, being all very connected to also the city of Seville and private institutions and public institutions. March students, in the end, will be able to manage sustainable projects with a preventive praxis rooted in the place history and legacy, and always integrating cultural heritage. Advanced strategies and techniques in rehabilitation, construction, new materials, analytical and design systems. And students will be able to create indicator systems, audits, and accreditation of quality and sustainability in the urban environment. And also to boost inclusive and ethics social participation. Students will also have available research training. Indeed, a high percentage of the students continues to the doctorate. This master has an increasing rate of employability for students as consultants, designers, or researchers in the private and public sector, also internationally. There is a great number of international students in this master. The March also offers specific seminars on professional orientation and employability, adapting to the changes in the market and new social needs as the ones that are emerging in our complicated current context of pandemic. Thank you.
So the second master we are going to show today, the Master in Architectural and Historical Heritage, is also, as the one Professor Maria Carrascal has shown, a one-year program of 60 credits. The master contains 6 modules with 50 compulsory credits and 10 optional ones. And on the left-hand side of the slide, we can see the contents with a special focus on methodology, as you can see there in the description of the different modules. Andalusian government, specifically its Institute of Historical Heritage and the Patronato of the Alhambra, the public institution in charge of this relevant heritage, are joining the University of Seville as institutions offering this master. 4 faculties, architecture, fine arts, history, and geography with engineering, and 10 departments collaborate in this transdisciplinary program. 20 years running, it already completed 20 editions, training professional entrepreneurs, public employees, and researchers to face the real challenges in heritage research, protection, conservation, dissemination, and integral management. As you can see there, the main goals of this program are to provide practical and effective patrimonial keys and always under international doctrinal parameters and legal regulations. To respond also to the needs and demands of society, especially focus on national and international protected heritage. This goal is of special interest for the public and cultural institutions. The main working instrument of the master program is the Heritage Project, whose methodology is based on transdisciplinary knowledge applied to a specific field work. An integral vision of heritage is actively promoted from the territory to its materiality, accompanied by a process of transversal knowledge supported by participatory processes. Heritage as a resource for the society, frame in sustainable development. These goals are achieved through a flexible and hybrid methodology, which combine lectures, theoretical courses, practical projects with critic reviews and public presentation, special and monographic seminars on workshops, field works and site-based studios, visits to real case studies using active learning methodologies, final thesis contemplating the 2 options of either independent research or a professional final work. Regarding the career prospects of this master, it responds to the real problematic of historical and cultural heritage. It works on balance and integral solutions, and the students are trained to work both on the public and the private sector. From the perspective of present demands, real demands, there is an increasing rate of employability as consultants, designers, or researchers in the private and public sectors. The practices and projects developed by the students respond to real situations on cultural landscapes of and Andalusian heritage assets. We point out that the faculty are not only university professors, but technicians from the cultural administrations. As we have pointed out previously in the conceptualization of our work, heritage and sustainable transversality in all the architectural programs and courses are critical, are central for a real commitment within architectural training. So Professor Jose Peral is presenting the analysis of the grade of architecture of our school, identifying the presence of heritage and sustainability in the curricula.
Yes, Mar. In this table, we show the structure of the 5-year degree of architecture. As we can see, it is in 11 modules and 37 compulsory courses of this credit, completed with 3 optional courses chosen by the student among 25. This 5th year is for specialization, and that is why the elective courses are offered in this last year. It is worthy of noting that the second semester of the fall course is monographic on heritage and rehabilitation. In the central column, we have identified the training in both heritage in red and sustainability in green in the different models and courses, specifying if it is regarding contents, objectives, competencies, or result. We can confirm that there is an extensive consideration of heritage and sustainability in the different courses, ranging from design study, history, and theory, construction, or structure. It is therefore also transversal to the different fields and departments. It is an academic model based on competencies and abilities from the generic to the more specific ones. The transversal relevance of heritage and its transference to reality in our degree of architecture is clear. There is a generic competence on heritage that affects to the whole degree, specifically development and oral presentation of heritage assessment and cataloging report. In the central column on the diagram, we are showing we have identified the training in both heritage in red and sustainability in green in the different models and courses, specifying if it is regarding contents, objective, competencies, or result. We can confirm that there is an extensive consideration of heritage and sustainability in the different courses, ranging from design studio, history and theory, construction or structure. It is therefore also transversal to the different fields and departments. Excuse me, I repeat, I noticed. Finally, we want to pay attention to teaching innovation, the use of methodology based on active learning, promoting an intensive relationship between courses, goals, contents, abilities, and activities. Dissolve the division between theory and practice. Thanks.
Professor Peral is a very good professor. That's why he is always fixing the concepts and everything and repeating them. So in this third part, we will share for discussion specific creative practices in heritage and sustainability through the contents, goals, methods, tools, and results of certain courses. So 3 courses, BLAB, this methodological panorama we are showing at the School of Architecture at Seville University. So first, we are going to show landscape, city, and architecture in Andalusia, which is an elective course focused on a specific territory, in this case, presented by Professor José Peral. Afterwards, we are going to show a compulsory monographic course on heritage, architectural history, theory, and composition, presented by Professor Julia Rey. And finally, we will show a compulsory course focused on the city that myself will present.
Thanks. It's a pleasure as a coordinator of this course at the high school to present it in HERSUD project. Decided it belonged to the fifth years in the second semester with 6 credits and is part of the elective courses group. The contents of this course are considered transversal from the theoretical and historiographic framework with regard to the management of heritage uses in Andalusia and their relationship with architecture. The characterization of the landscape on different scales is based on architectural and urban development through a history and as a specific manifestation of culture. Identified with modernity, technical advances have always been at the service of mankind in relation with its environment. One of the first flights, 1 century ago, provide an image as unprecedented as the one that the man discovered and recorded when flying became a reality. Thus, the maps confirm its veracity. We can see in this film the Cathedral of Seville, the Herval, the Roman Amphitheater, the Low River, and the farthest south village in Europe, Tarifa. The main objective is to focus on the importance of cultural heritage on sustainable economic and territorial development. Based on traditional techniques and with the use of new technologies to develop the basis for the formulation of alternative models to historiographic and heritage management definition. These models are based on qualified elements with an urban dimension. In this case, the proposed itinerary has its limits on two convent foundations on both sides of the Guadalquivir River, San Jacinto on the right bank, and La Magdalena in the historic city. A cubic model with cross-section is compared with other cultural heritage units. Students are organized into mixed groups, and the teamwork seeks the involvement of the student to achieve high quality results. The methods used are flex learning and problem-based learning, and the work is divided into two phases. The first phase is based on observation, and it aims to identify and analyze the heritage value on graphic support. The second one seeks to generate a real or virtual model as a proposal around the value chosen by each student group. As a result of the observation, the diagram, picture, and sketching prepare the final presentation based in a built model. At the end of the course, each team explains the final result. As the models are available for touching, the goal of communicating allows the classroom interact. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Professor.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I will now explain the course called Architectural History, Theory and Composition. It takes place in 4 years, second semester, and with 6 credits. It belongs to an undergraduate program, and it's a compulsory subject. The contents of the course addresses the evolution of the concept of heritage and also reviews the current strategies for managing cultural heritage and identifies new models of heritage city management based on urban governance and the heritage sustainability binomial. The aim of the course is to ensure that the students learn the historical and cultural knowledge necessary for carrying out diagnosis and heritage assessment of architecture, the city, and those territorial elements that form part of the landscape. In addition, the course aims to make students aware that heritage and culture are current resources that contribute to local development and the local economy. In relation to outcomes, this approach to heritage fosters their critical capacity in relation to the identification of heritage values and attributes. Also, it generates in the student an ability to relate the values and attributes of this heritage with the needs of the contents and to identify the benefits and impacts generated when using this heritage as a resource. The teaching strategy used is one in which the student is the main character of the learning process, where in addition to acquiring responsibilities and critically approaching the contents provided in the subject, they exchange point of view and experience with their classmates. Derivated from this reality, different methods are promoted which combine problem-based learning, service learning, cooperative learning, lectures, and case studies. Also, they will combine individual work with group work. Essentially, the phases the students go through are assimilation of theoretical content and focus on an heritage intervention or area in the group and individual exercise. The phases of the heritage methodology are phase 1, collection of materials and heritage identification, Phase 2, diagnosis and identification of cultural attributes and values. Phase 3, intervention strategy and lines of action. And phase 4, knowledge transfers. And in a transversal way, they will use the following tools, such as documentary management, interpretation, graphic sources, and a study visit or attending a seminar or conference. So as we have seen above, the results is the learning process in which the student approach the concept of heritage. Another issue is that in order to connect the student with real problems, case studies selected are close to the student and ignored by the administration, such as industrial heritage issues, degraded neighborhoods with a social heritage component, and obsolete heritage. Finally, understanding the heritage sustainability relation requires working with different disciplines and approach. Therefore, a commitment to the integrated curriculum is demanded. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Julia Rey. And we are finalizing this part of creative design processes with another course focused on city that it is taught in the last year, the specialization year, in the first semester. The course focuses on critical historical knowledge and practice of the contemporary city. Modern city is studied in a complex interdisciplinary framework of geopolitical, economic, technological, and social transformations. Sustainable alternative approaches to the development of the city are historically traced and in dialogue with the predominant urban modern trends. And the theoretical and practical contents tackle both the international and the local context. In order to do that, international case studies of theories for sustainable intervention of the city are complemented with local heritage case studies as the framework for creative urban regeneration of the city. The course, therefore, intends to develop an interdisciplinary complex approach to the city and the territory as a cultural manifestation within the framework of geopolitical, economical, and social transformations, integrating the different disciplines with architecture. To understand also the multiscalar condition of the city, to approach the city as a territorial phenomenon always, while being able to integrate the architecture at the urban scale. To know the history and the genealogy of the different urban theories based on sustainability. To develop their critical understanding in the present, being able to apply them in the design processes, applying international urban strategies locally. To work with local cultural heritage as a key source for local sustainable urban development. To integrate creativity with scientific methods in all the phases, from documentation to historical research to values assessment and design strategies. In a field of constant reformulation, such as heritage studies, creativity allows the student to constantly adapt to emerging heritage and sustainable theories. The pedagogy integrates training activities, both theoretical and practical, from teaching to learning, but also from learning to leading. Classroom practicum is coordinating and driven and directed by the students. Creative methods are transmitted, improved, and questioned among the different generations of students, ranging from the students of the previous year to those who are already architects or collaborators or professors. They serve as a generational bridge for knowledge, which facilitates the learning process. Based on the problem-based learning and case studies, the students work on two activities. The first half of the semester, each team works on historic and present authors and its architectural and urban proposal for sustainable development. Here, the most innovative method is the integration of research and workshop with gamification. Each team design a participatory creative action, a game, and each team leads, run, and evaluate the class, assuring that the other teams learn by doing, by playing, and always supported by architectural tools and processes. The second half of the semester, they work on an architectural urban heritage case study of a local city, such as Seville, and develop a historic and documentary research. And heritage characterization will lead to the design of creative strategies for the regeneration of the city. When working on the design on the international case studies and its local application, 4 phases are developed, culminated by the session led by each team. They share firstly the method, process, challenges, and results with the previous year students. Then they develop and explore research methods for creation. Their research is complemented with a seminar on historical and documentary research integrated in the creative process with the participation, again, of other generation, young professor and doctoral students. In workshop sessions, creative research and design of the game and its architectural artifacts are also followed, guided by previous year generation already architects. Finally, each team is in charge of presenting, design the gamification activity, activate the class, and evaluate the results, using all types of media, from digital manufactured conceptual models to questionnaire cards, online apps, or activities. In the second half of the semester, while working on local urban heritage case studies, they work on emergent or non-established heritage, such as this one here, social housing of the 50s and 60s. The proposal for creative urban generation are presented with mixed media, insisted on the creating force of all the results. Photography, cartographies, even documentaries and videos are produced. The relationship between the course and the local reality is assured with the local urban heritage case study as the framework for both practical activities. The last 2 years, for example, we have worked on architectural heritage of Seville as the support from these proposals. In fact, industrial heritage sites. Seville is declared Creative City by UNESCO in 2006 in the category of music, with Flamenco Biennale as the event of reference. And our course becomes a project in collaboration between the universities and owners of certain architectural heritage like Montalban Pottery Factory, reused as hotel and restaurant. The projects have been exhibited. The experience of former students explained in online interviews that very soon you are going to be able to enjoy. And new technologies are essential to maximize accessibility of all information. Finally, we want to have a very brief reflection on the challenges we face. This would be like the gate or the preview for the questionnaire to come in our project. So we are going to show here the perspective from the different agents that we interviewed, from the academia, institution, and professions. As I say, different agents involved in heritage and sustainability has offered us the reflections on the challenges, the aspects we have to improve, we have to take into account, to emphasize, in order to get a better learning, in order to protect better, intervene better our heritage. So as we see there, we are talking to experts, architects on the professional practice, also public institutions, both governmental and municipal, and of course, the university. This scheme of the different agents contributing to have the first overview of our challenges as educators on heritage and sustainability. On the left-hand side, we have the testimony through an interview of the professional practitioners, experts on heritage interventions, AF6 Arquitectura, authors, in fact, we included in one of our best practices of the project. And they insist in these 4 concepts there. They said we have to be sure we transmit the responsibility that architects are researchers. This is very interesting coming from the practitioners. Deep knowledge as part of the design proposal. They also emphasize there is no standard methodology, that each heritage project is a unique research on a particular place. So heritage knowledge is materiality, is cultural and historical context. Architectural design on heritage is mainly a process where we add while keeping traces, and complex process where incertitude and certitude offer us an opportunity for creativity in sustainable framework, recycle and reuse. In the center part of the screen, you can see the testimony of the public agents. Firstly, from the Andalusian Institute of Historical Heritage, specifically the director of Documentation and Research Center. She insisted on 3 main aspects: the need to train the future expert working on public institutions, specifically on heritage management and its legal and regulatory context. Also, as the breakthrough within heritage, we have to be inserted in open science. This incorporates an important technological component linked to the production, processing, access, and use of research data as the proper right of the society to have the information. Also, she pointed out to overcome resistance to social participation and to work on the development of criteria, methods, and techniques for their incorporation into heritage methods. Finally, academia. In the public agents on sustainability, we talked to the Department of Sustainability and Urban Innovation with Victoria Segura Raya, and she insisted in these 4 aspects there: to train in spatial analysis. This is very important for architects. To integrate also this spatial technological training with an interdisciplinary methodological approach to the city and territory. To know the relevance and utility of spatial data for a more polyhedric urban knowledge, critical for an effective, sustainable approach to the city, manage properly the information, and finally, to understand and assume the right of the citizen to information accessibility. And finally, while talking and asking, interviewing the agents of academia, we have focused on the people working on culture and sustainable habitat, specifically the deputy director of our School of Architecture, and also the students. The first one, Javier López Rivera, insisted in how we have to inculcate to the students of architecture that territory consumption, so construction development, is the least sustainable action. So coming from a School of Architecture is very important to point out. So the main task of the architect is not to to develop the territory to construct architecture, but they reduce and improve our already built environment beyond energetic qualifications, beyond specific construction solution and commercial brands, beyond protection and catalogs, and focusing on what society demands, what we can offer to future generations, and also a special emphasis on the local heritage. To finish, I think that it's very important to talk with our students to see what they have to say, what we have to improve. So coming from an architect in architectural practitioner, former student of the Master of Architecture and Historical Heritage, He emphasized these valid points I share with you. To transmit that heritage belongs to those who live in it, and therefore intervention must respond to society and the collective imaginary of each place. The need for applied research in direct contact with users is essential, combined with more traditional research methods. It's very important the programmatic activation of heritage and how the everyday heritage cannot aspire to be a decorative element or who's only offered the visit and contemplation. To educate about the fact that each type of heritage has different degrees of freedom when it comes to intervene. And finally, to finish, what architectural intervention give rise to synergies and singularities that revalue and improve their persistence. And he finished with a sentence saying that diachronic dialogues contribute to the creation of unique spaces for the present and for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Marlo.